Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Military Mondays. If you and I don't know each other, I would love to get to know you, especially if you are a veteran that has your own business, a spouse of a veteran, or you're a business that supports the military and veteran community. You can go to militarymondayswithan s.info and connect with me, and let's have a conversation. But enough about me. I have an amazing lady on this morning. Christine and I met, 2-3 years.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, a little over 3. Yep.
It hasn't been that long. Wow. We met about 3 years ago out networking. Have you seen a common theme in my Military Mondays? There are people that I've met out networking or that somebody has connected me to. So networking is huge. We do it in the military. You don't think you do it in the military, but trust me, you do. How do you find your next assignment? How do you get ingrained in the community and the schools and everything else? Networking is key to everything in life. So welcome this morning, Christine. It's so fun to have you on after all this time. We've talked about this for a couple of years now.
Yes, we have. It's just amazing how the world opens back up and things just align. So yes, I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So Christine and I met about 3 years ago networking, and she since moved. She retired and moved, and a mutual friend through networking connected us back up. So it's a fun world. So Christine, let's talk a little bit about your military career. And I happen to know that you had a business alongside your military career before you got out. So let's talk a little bit about what you did in the service, and then we'll move into what you're doing today.
Okay, so the most amazing fact about me that people are just flabbergasted with is I actually wore the uniform for 32 and a half years.
Wow.
So enlisted when I was 20 for the college money, fell in love, lost track of time. And then 32 and a half years later, I was like, now what? So that's one interesting thing that, I still just get awe over that one and goosebumps. But I was actually a communications officer my entire career. And I kind of wrapped things up the last 2 years there at Colorado Springs. That's how we met in the cyber world. So that's what I did. But yes, you're right. I actually was starting a business before I even decided to retire and transition out of the military. And what brought that about was literally 5 years ago on a training run, because I'm a big runner. I rolled and broke my ankle, and it put me in such a horrible state of mind, physically, when you are an active runner, because that's how I dealt with stress, being in charge of general officers. When you can't run and burn that out, I kind of gave up on so many things. I was already struggling with weight, the foggy mind, as you know, trying to stay motivated, because as you know, as we get older, it gets harder to get the weight off, keep the weight off. But so it was I always pay homage this time of year, because it was October of 2017 that I broke my ankle. And that was just a huge shift for me in so many ways, but I didn't know it at the time. It took me another year to really understand, after being introduced to Isogenics products. That's what got me started on that business endeavor. It was just, it just opened up a whole different world to me. Because as you know, most of us think, well, when I retire, I have to either become a GS or I have to become a contractor. And you keep working the stuff that you've known for 20, 30 years. But deep inside, I always knew that's not what I wanted. I wanted my time back, wanted to be able to not ask for permission to take leave. I wanted to be my own boss, basically. I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew that's kind of where I wanted to go. So yes, introduce these amazing products. And that's how you and I met. I was just out starting to network and just getting to meet people again, and learning how to do that skill set, because it's a lot different than networking in the military. It's a whole different world, whole different language, as you know, and I just love that way. So that's kind of how I got started that way.
Awesome. So I want to talk about two things you talked about. One, you said networking is different, and you have to learn it. But the beauty is we have the basic foundation.
Yes.
There are many people who have a career on the civilian side and never really have to network in their job to get their next assignment or to pick up and start their family all over again in a new city. So I want to encourage everybody out there to not be scared of networking, because it's just tapping into a skill that you learned in the military, just
Yes.
like every other skill we learned in the military. Every time you move and do something else, you have to tweak it. You have to think a little bit differently. So don't be scared of that. And then
Yes.
second, you talked about having a career or starting another career before you left the military. Let's talk a little bit about that. And what do you, I'm assuming, because we talked about this before, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I'm kind of assuming that you learned that later than you would have liked to have in your career to be able to start that next path. So let's talk a little bit about that and words of advice you would have for somebody, because that leads right into the next thing you do also.
Yes, it does. So the reason I started networking and learning that is it's not a new skill, but I had to evolve upon it. And number one, we can talk acronyms all day long in the military world. That's like our language. I kept jokingly telling myself, I need to learn how to speak normal again with people, and get comfortable sharing my story. So when we get out, I've noticed this with a lot of female veterans, we don't let the world know, number one, that we served. It doesn't matter the length of time. We keep our stories very quiet and very close hold. And that's my first takeaway I want everybody to hear is you really need to share your story, because you offer so much to the world, to be honest. And when you own it and you're proud of it, it just opens up so many doors for you in so many ways. So yes, networking is important. You need to let people know you're a veteran. You may not want to play that card, as some people like to call it, but I don't see it as playing a card. I see it as just truly letting people know what you did, because we are such a tiny minority and we can easily get lost in the world around us. So I've known on and off for years that I wanted to do something different, but I just didn't know what that was. And that's kind of what led me into the other thing that I do now is we have to find our purpose. Our purpose when we wear the uniform is we serve our country. We stand behind us so much, we support, willing to lay down our lives for that world that we're, protecting. But then what do you do when you hang up the uniform? That's where finding that purpose is so important. And it's okay if that's truly what you want to do, is to continue to support as GS or contractor. But if you don't, then what? Literally the first 2 months after I retired, even though I was building one business, I still felt kind of empty inside, to be honest. And it took me sharing my own story with a complete stranger for 45 minutes, an interview of all things. That showed me the power of my story. And then that's when I realized I knew my purpose now. My purpose was not only to let the world know that I served, but to help others share their voice and to find their purpose. So what am I getting at? Basically, we all know when we transition out that the services shake our hands and say, thank you. Here's a piece of paper. See you later. Adios. And 10 pounds of information in a 2-pound bag. That's where we get lost, I think. When we're brought into the service, we are indoctrinated, broken down, and built up into who they want us to be. So who are we after we get out? I like to say that 20-year-old Christine, when she signed up, didn't even know who I was at that point in time. And now I'm 52, really don't know who I am. And that opened up me moving into a lot of mindset work. I actually had an amazing business coach right before I retired. Which is helpful if you want to build that way. Find somebody to mentor and guide you. Don't do this on your own. You've got to have that support system there, and that goes back to networking. But it also helped me unpack my own baggage, figure out what I truly wanted to do, and start to see that there's a big gap when we get out between that transition window. And that's what I've evolved into for the second business. I've created a coaching service called Empowered and Free. where I'm actually taking people on the journey with me, because this will be an everyday journey myself of figuring out my purpose in life, dreaming big again, using our imaginations that way, learning how to design that life we want, and truly just going for it. And when you start figuring that out, it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. It lets you know that you're not alone, that it's okay to dream and truly go for what you want. Nobody said you had to stay in that box you've been in for 20, 30 years. You need to stand on top of that box, yell from the rooftops that this is who I am, this is what I did, this is where I'm going. And then you just need to go for it. So yeah, that transition window is very important. And that's what I'm loving to do now, is just taking people on the journey with me and showing them how to dream big again and go for it.
I love it. I could picture, as you were saying that, the box and me standing on top of the box. My husband and I always teach people to think outside the box, but now I'm going to start talking about them. I learned this from Christine today. Not only get outside the box, but stand on top of the box and shout it from the rooftops, what you're doing.
Yeah.
And help people, because a rising tide lifts all ships, and we all have something to share, a product, a service, something with the world, and it's okay to shout it from the rooftops. And I love that. I absolutely love that. So some words of advice that you would have for somebody that maybe is thinking about getting out. Maybe they haven't served a whole career, but especially those of us that served 20 to 30 plus years in the service, because it is a huge transition. And being now on the flip side, 7+ years, I remember that transition, and it wasn't, even though I already had a business started like you did, I remember it, even to this day, at times, it's not easy. It's like trying to think differently. And we're taught in the military to think differently. We are taught to think outside the box all the time in training exercises. So why is that so hard for people to do that in civilian life afterwards? So what?
Yeah, my one piece of advice is plan now. I don't care if you come in initially just to do your initial contract or whatever length it is. Always have a plan B, an exit strategy, but make sure that it supports what you need to do as well. If you have a family, make sure that it encompasses that, make sure that they're on board with whatever you're trying to do. For us older individuals that have been at it a lot longer, I think part of the reason that we struggle a bit is because we become very comfortable in our roles. And our minds are always telling us, well, why do something scary and different? Because it doesn't understand, the difference between those kind of things. It just knows that you're doing something that it's not used to and it doesn't like it. So it's always going to try and bring you back into that comfort zone. So we've always talked about this. You need to get outside that bubble. And that's why I say stand on the box and scream from the rooftops. But you've got to, it's okay to understand the past, but you've got to leave the past behind you to some point too. You can't dwell on the past. You can't worry about the future. You can only focus on the here, the now, the day, and you take it literally one day at a time. So that's my quick advice, I guess.
Awesome. Josh, thanks for watching this morning, Josh. Josh says, I think maybe there is a larger occurrence of imposter syndrome for some vets as they compare their own service to those we see around us and see our own service as not measuring up. That is so true. And we all had a purpose and we all played a very big role, but some of us cower down and think that we're small in that picture.
Yeah. And it's the same when we're building a business and getting out there doing new stuff. I struggle with my imposter every day. I'm like, am I really going to be able to do this? Is this something I can do? And then the hard part is not comparing yourself to others. So just like we did in the military, we always saw the people who moved up quickly through the ranks, and we just didn't understand why, because we were doing the same exact thing. So yeah, imposter syndrome is alive and real. But I think if you do it enough, that's how you break through some of those barriers too.
Awesome. I love it. So anything we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about this morning?
Oh my goodness, we don't have enough time, but anyway. Oh,
We'll have
I
to have
just
you on
want to-
another one.
no, I just want to encourage everyone to truly find some quiet time and really just write down on what you want to do. Find that dream and desire again. And don't be afraid to go for it. And don't be afraid to ask for help on how to get there. This is a team sport. Everything we do, that's why we love the military. It's a team sport. So don't feel like you are alone when you get out and you're pursuing something different or new. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on this morning, Christine.
No, thank
so
you.
good reconnecting with you, and I look forward to even more conversations offline. But I appreciate you coming on. And how can people reach you so that if they're getting ready to do that transition, you can help them to calm those nerves and lay out a plan so that they can truly live the life of their dreams?
I think the easiest way, because again, another tidbit of advice, LinkedIn is the way you should go for networking and building. So LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to find me, because on my page is an actual Calendly link, scheduling link. So you can just, book 30-minute session. We can chit chat and see where you need to go and how I can help you. So that's probably the easiest way. So it's christine.n.adams on the LinkedIn side.
Awesome. And when we get done, if you'd put your contact information below in the
Totally.
chat so that people can reach out and connect with you. If they're not on LinkedIn, they
Yep.
can connect with you on Facebook, and then you can bring them over to the LinkedIn community.
Yeah, no problem. And you guys, I just love to hear your stories. When I connect with a vet, I'm like, just share your story with me, because stories are so powerful. And that's how we network,
Yes.
So
I see a book coming out of Christine.
it is on my to-do
stories.
list. I don't know what it's going to be, but yeah, it's on my to-do list. I have a long to-do list.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on. If you are a veteran or a military member that has a business or a spouse, I would love to interview you on a Military Mondays. So connect with me at militarymondays.info. And then let's have a conversation. And if you found value in this, please like and share it. Even if you didn't find value in it, if you enjoyed this morning's presentation or interview with Christine, please like and share it, because somebody out there is getting ready to transition out of the military or is a few years out, and they need to hear Christine's story. They need Christine's help. So please like and share this. Let's get the word out. And I look forward to seeing you all right here next Monday on Military Mondays. Bye, everyone.
Bye.